going to be working on some riding from the ground. So Atlas is cool with me putting these little reins on his halter and having them over his neck and just kind of standing still with me next to him. That's what we're working on right now. So I can just kind of pet on him and he stands still and I can reinforce that. That's important. That's something I overlooked a lot in the beginning as well. When I first started clicker training was that I need to cue the standstill, I need to reinforce the standstill. And that with negative reinforcement, traditional training, you don't need to do that. So that was a new thing that I needed to learn. And then I want him to just kind of go forward from here. So I want him to go forward off of my voice cue and then after like a target. So again, I'm not doing this great because I should be using a handhold target here so that I have something to create that movement and not just assume that he's going to just go forward off of my voice cue because he doesn't do that all the time. That time he did. That was perfect actually. I think I thought I could just use my hand target and have him go forward, but I definitely should have been using a longer handheld target so I could create that movement, or some stationary cones or other targets so I could create that movement if I needed to. Because I don't want to wear out those vocal cues. I don't want to say them and then not get the behavior, and that's what's happening now. So I just needed to be a little bit more prepared. So there, he paused for quite a while, and then he did eventually go ahead and walk forward. So I am going to reinforce him for going forward, but again, it's just the problems I'm going to have in this lesson are me. I just didn't prepare well enough. And there he's kind of thinking about going forward. Then I'm going to click and reinforce him for staying still. So again, I need to be cueing him for stand still. So what I need to be doing is saying like stand, giving him a cue, because he does know that. He does know how to stand, stay. And then reinforce that behavior, reinforce that quite a bit, and then ask for that forward, and then balance the two behaviors. That's what I need to be doing. So asking him to go forward and then walking with him just one step. That actually looks quite good. My goal here is really get him used to me being next to him or slightly behind his shoulder. Teaching those rein cues that I'll use once I'm on his back. And having him go forward off of those voice cues without me in that leading position. I want him going forward and standing still and stopping while I'm like behind or even with that shoulder. So those are my goals here. It's just really important that he has all of that before I actually ride him. I'm still going to be working on getting on him here in a little bit, but I want to make sure that he has all those things. So he's good with flexing away from me, like he's really soft, but you saw how fast he was to bring his head back to me. I should have reworded that anyway because he did do what I wanted. I think maybe I wanted a step and not a flex, but for him, I'm okay with him kind of going in that direction because you could see how tight he was doing that. Flexing away from me is something we definitely need to work on. And then the petting here is going to be a cue. So what I want from on his back is when I'm sitting on him, I want to kind of just pet on his withers and just pet down his neck. And that's a rewarding, like a relaxation, like just stand still, relax, put your head down kind of thing. I also do plan on teaching him that head down cue and expanding on it so that I do have that under saddle as well. Um, but that's gonna become is just I kind of pet on him. Like here, he's just kind of backing up and moving around. There we go. So I just kind of stay with him, just pet on his neck. He stops, he stands still. I'm gonna click and reinforce that. That's what I'm talking about. There is that petting is gonna be just stand still and kind of relax. That's what I want it to become. So it's not just petting for no reason. It's going to become that cute. There, he's already figured it out. So I pet on him. He puts his head down, and now he's going forward. And then I'm asking him to stop. So I'm kind of adding too many behaviors together in the beginning too, because I asked him to stop and stand still. I asked him to go forward. I asked him to stop. So he's just not quite ready for that. I don't think he did that really well, but I want to be careful that I'm not lumping too many behaviors together and then frustrating him or making him afraid in any way. So I'm just going to pet on him from this side. I'm looking for just kind of relaxation. I should have just kind of followed through with that and worked on some relaxation so I could click that. But instead I asked for the flexion away. He actually did that quite well. And the flexion toward, he's really good at both of those. Again, I should be having that handhold target so that I could create those flexions if I needed to, if he didn't respond to that light halter pressure, but he did. So those do look nice, but I just need to be prepared at all times so that I can create that movement. And I could do it with my hand when he's flexing toward me, but that's going to be really hard to do when I'm asking him to flex away. There, I need to reinforce that because I was petting on him and he's staying still, he's lowering his head and neck, and I didn't click any of that. So I need to be careful with that because he's doing exactly what I want. and I'm too focused on getting him to go forward, which he did nicely, but I do really need to pay attention to that because he did exactly what I wanted there. Same thing here. His head and neck start coming down immediately. I needed to click and reinforce this. Instead, I was like, oh, well, let's move on to going forward. So I'm just missing some opportunities to build in more correct training. And I need to be careful there because I'm starting to pet on him and then he's just going into walk. So I don't know if I cued that there. I might have cued that, but I need to be careful that I'm not cueing those so close together that he thinks that me petting him on his neck is lower your head and go forward. Because I want it to be lower your head, relax, stand still kind of a thing. So I got to be careful with that too. But he is going forward nicely there without me. And that's important. I want his feet to move first and then I follow. I don't want the cue to be him following me because that's not what's going to happen under saddle. So it's really important that he goes forward. There he's getting a little confused. I'm just kind of asking for the backup again. If I would have had my handheld target, I could have shown him the correct answer with the target. So again, me not being prepared is not helping me. But he still manages to do really, really well, even though I'm not the best at teaching him at this point. He does very well with this lesson. But that just kind of shows how great positive reinforcement is. It's not scaring him. He's not looking for a bunch of answers. He remains relaxed and connected and is trying to figure out what it is that I want him to do. I also probably should be feeding him with his head straight so that I don't have this neck turning toward me. But that's just another thing that I learned later on. So go ahead and unclip his reins. He's really cool with just the rope kind of swinging over him, and you've seen like we've been doing a lot of work with that. So that's also paying off with having the reins on his neck. So now I'm going to work on a little bit of mounting. In the last mounting session, you saw me just putting my knee kind of on his back, and I want to expand on that a little bit today. And also this is where the petting is coming in here. When I go up on him and I'm kind of leaning over his back, he goes ahead and immediately puts his head down. So that's fantastic. It's kind of transitioning to on the mounting block as well. And then I kind of lean over and just ask for him to touch my hand, and that looks really good. He doesn't look as tight and as tense as he has in the past. He doesn't touch there, so I'm asking again. Very nice, and I'm just feeding him from the other side. That looks really good. He's nice and slow about his head and neck. That's a huge improvement for him. But I should have that cone out so that he can have a little bit more control over the behaviors. And when I do like go over his back. So I like that he lowered his head in response to me kind of petting on his neck. I'm just kind of laying over a little bit. He thought that he was supposed to turn his head and like target my hand because he saw my hands on his side, which is totally fine. I don't care if he goes around and touches it. I want him exploring. I want him being nice and confident. And there it transitions over to my foot. So he got a little bit worried there, but I'm going to reinforce him for looking at my foot and touching it. I don't want him to like be like investigating it too much, but I do like that he's just targeting it. And that's what another important thing is he knows how to target. He targets with his mouth closed, so that prevents that like potentially biting in the future. So because some, especially young horses, they want to nibble and explore, especially when with something like this where it's all new to him. But with that targeting, it kind of prevents that. So I want him to see that my leg is on his back. I do want him to investigate that, but I also don't want to scare him. So just little baby steps. I probably should have just kind of put my leg over a little bit, like halfway over his back, so that he just kind of saw my foot kind of up by his withers and built up from there. But he doesn't seem like scared from that. He was a little bit like, oh, there's a foot there instead of the hands, but he wasn't like afraid or like felt the need to move or anything. I probably could have worked on that side a little bit more too. I had him come to this other side, kind of line up with the block again. All these are good signs. It's really important that he still wants to participate and that he lines up. If he doesn't and he's going away from the block, that's a sign that he's a little over face. He's a little bit worried. So I want to pay attention to those signs as well. So kind of start over, same thing, kind of leaning over, just having him touch my hand. That looks great because I want to prepare him that my foot's going to come over. So he sees me laying over the side. He sees my hand on the other side. I like that he's lowering his head and neck in response to that petting. I need to click and reinforce that because that looks fantastic. There we go. And then I'm just trying to feed him on the opposite side. We need to work on a lot of that because that looks really good. I like how he moved his head away after he took the reinforcement. He wasn't swinging his head really fast. He was just nice and relaxed. This is going to be important once I get on him. I need to feed him from both sides. So there, that's a better kind of intermediate step versus putting my leg all the way over. Was just kind of bringing it over like his midline, and that's easy to see because he has that dorsal stripe over onto that right side, clicking while my leg's there, and then taking it off. And again, I need to come all the way off the mounting block. That is actually really good. I should probably let him target that because he's, again, thinking, oh, I target that just like my hand. I should let him target that, reinforced him for that, like clicked him while he did that, and then fed. So I think I pulled my leg away because I didn't want to scare him from it, but I think he's got it at this point. Like there, he's gonna touch it. I'm gonna click while he's touched my foot and reinforce. And that was a really good session for him, really expanding on some of the mounting work we've been doing.